I'm Dr. Usha Kumari, Assistant Professor, Department of English, CHL Government College, Chhara. Today we are gonna do the poem "My Last Duchess." It was written by the Victorian poet and the dramatic monologue writer Robert Browning. His wife Elizabeth Barrett was also a famous poetess. Robert Browning was born on 7th May 1812 at Walworth, London, in United Kingdom. He was died on 12 December 1889 at Ca Retisonica, Venice, Italy. He is known for dramatic monologue and the psychological portraiture of his characters. Uh, so, guys, what's a dramatic monologue? Actually, dramatic monologue is a form of poem in which a single speaker speaks at a particular moment of his life. His works includes The Ring and the Book, My Last Duchess, selected poems of Robert Browning, Man and Women, and many more. So, what's important about My Last Duchess is, first, it is one of the best poems of Robert Browning. Secondly, its stanzas are written in iambic pentameter and have rhymed couplets. It has also end-rhyme. It reveals the significant insight into the character who delivers it. Here is one important line, that is, "This grew, I gave commands, and my own smiles stopped together." So let's get started with the poem. The speaker of the poem is Duke Ferrara, and his last duchess and his wife has died. The messenger of a neighboring count comes with a proposal of his daughter's marriage with this duke. So this was the background, and here the king or the duke shows a picture of his last duchess to this count. This my last duchess, painting on the wall, looking as if she were alive. I call that piece a wonder now. Fra Pendulov's hands worked busily a day, and there she stands with, "Please you sit and look at her." Here we see that the Duke is speaking to the messenger, has described the portrait of his wife. This picture has been painted on the wall, and it was in this painting. It's so good that the Duchess looked as if she is alive. The Duke tells the messenger that he considers this piece of art as wonder. He got it painted. From the monk Fra Pendulov, and he also tells that he is kind of the painter that who never paint the picture out of greed of money. So he was so capable of making Fra Pendulov to draw this painting for him, and he worked busily for a day, and only then he was able to complete this painting. The Duke also asked the messenger, "Will you sit and look at the picture?" I said, "Fra Pendulov, by design, for never read strangers like that pictured countenance, the depth and passion of his earnest glance, but to myself they turn, since none puts by the curtain I have drawn for you, but I, and seemed as they would ask me, if they durst, how such a glance come here, So not the first are you to turn and ask thus. Here the Duke tells the messenger that he purposely told the name of the painter who painted this picture of his last touches, be- because he is the master painter, and Duke was whatever he shows the picture to someone, he wonders at the liveliness of the face. He wonders at the depth of passion in her eyes. So he tells the messenger that he is not only the one who looked at me to ask for the questions of his mind when arises by this picture, which arises by looking at this painting. So it was not her husband's presence only called that spot of joy onto the Duchess' cheek, perhaps for a pendle of chance to say her mental lapse over my lady's wrist too much, or paint must never hope to reproduce the faint half flush that dies along her throat. Such stuff was courtesy, she thought, and cause enough for calling up that spot of joy. The messenger and the Duke were standing before the portrait of the last Duchess, and the Duke tells him that it was painted by Fra Pendulaf. He also tells the messenger there is a red flush on the cheeks of his Duchess, but he also tells that this red spot is not because of the presence of her husband, uh, uh, but it's perhaps it's because the painter has got the chance to say that some flattering words about her beauty, and that's why this spot of joy came over her. He might also said to her that she might bear her rest a little more, and no, he might have said that no color is capable of painting the beauty of the Duchess. Such kind of flattering words made her feel happy, and that spot of joy came on her face or on her cheeks. She had a heart, how shall I say, too soon made glad and too easily impressed. She liked whatever she looked on, and her looks went everywhere. He also tells that she was so kind, she was so gentle, she was so compassionate that she can be happy very easily. I can't describe her gentleness in my words. She praises everything, whatever she looks, and her looks went everywhere. She looks at each and everything, where it is small, it's tiny or big, and she praises everything. The Duke didn't like all this. So it was all one. My favorite her breast, the dropping of the daylight in the west, the bow of the cherries, some officious fool broke in the orchard for her, the white mule she rode with round the terrace, all and each would draw from her alike the approving speech or bless at least. He tells the messenger that her wife was so gentle, and rather she was a foolish woman who liked whatever she looked on, whether it is tiny present of some officious fool brought from the orchard, or whenever she was riding on her mule, or its setting sun scene. She likes everything, even my 900 years old necklace have same importance for her. She praised the beauty of sunset. She praised the she was very happy with her riding of her mule. She praised each and every person who did the little favor to her. She thanked man, but thanked somehow I don't know how, as if she ranked my gift of a 900 years old name with anybody's gift. She thanked people whenever they did favor to her, and she thanked each and every person, whether they have done to her little favor, or her husband who it's her husband who has given her a 9,900 years old necklace. But she was so gentle hearted. She praised each and everyone, she thanked each and everyone, she smiled at each and everyone in the same manner. According to Duke, she was not behaving like in the manner of a duchess, and this was not liked by this Duke. In nutshell, we can say that Duke didn't like the silly habits of his wife, would stoop to blame the sort of trifling, even hand you skill in speech which I have not to make your will quite clear to such am one, and say just this or that in you disgust me. Here you miss or the exact exceed the mark, and if she let herself the lesson so not plainly set, how wits to your forsooth. I made excuse, even then would be some stooping, and I chose never to stoop. In this stanza, we see that Duke was very proud of his family, the name of his family, but was very gentle, she is down to earth. It also reveals that the Duke is very cruel. On the other hand, the Duchess was very simple woman. He reveals that if he wanted, he could have improved her, but he decided not to stoop, and that's why she's, today she's standing on this painting. She considered it even below the dignity of his name, his family name, and his rank. So he decided not to stoop, not to reform her, not to tell her that he don't like her behaves and don't like her ways. Oh, sir, she smiled, no doubt, whenever I passed by her, but who passed without such much the same smile? This grew. I gave command, then all smiles stopped together. There she stand as if alive. He tells the reason why he was so angry with his duchess. He tells that whenever somebody passed by her, she gave the smile, whether it's her husband or some common folk. So it was not liked by Duke, and that's why he says that her behavior grew with the passage of time. She didn't reformed her, and one day I was so in a way Duke was jealous of her behavior, and one day he decided not to stoop, not to lower himself, and he gave commands. This grew. I gave commands, then all smiles stopped together. The habit of his wife grew. The wife of his habit grew and grew. She didn't stop behaving like this, and this was not tolerated by the Duke. And one day he decided to give the command, and he killed her. And today she stands as if she is alive in a portrait, and she is no more. In the last stanza, he says that, will it please you rise? Will meet the company below, then I repeat, the count your master's known munificence is ample warrant that no just pretense of mine for dowry will be disallowed, though his fair daughter's self, as I avowed at starting, as my object, nay, will go together down, sir. Notice Neptune, though taming a seahorse, though a rarity which Claus of Venusberg in bronze for me. On the whole, we see that the Duke was very suspicious by nature. He didn't like the gentle behave of his wife, and he doubts on her nature, on her behavior, on her character. Duke makes his intention clear very tactfully, very cleverly. He says that the neighboring count is known for his large-heartedness, his munificence, and he's pretty sure that his demand for dowry will not be denied. Moreover, my object in marrying his daughter is not the dowry, but his daughter herself. Um, but he also makes clear that with beauty, dowry is equally important. So we see that he reveals his character throughout the poem, that he is very cruel person. He didn't like the wage of his wife, who was very simple. He was very gentle hearted and passionate. And here the duke, contrary to her nature, was greedy. He was cruel, and he didn't like the ways, simple ways. He was not down to earth. He was proud of his family and the name of his family. He rates himself higher than the common folks. So there was a contrast between the character of the duke and duchess. We see that in this poem, the Duke praises himself and criticizes his wife, but the impression which the readers get is quite opposite. They have all the praise for this Duchess, and they find that the Duke is cruel, he is greedy, and he didn't like the simple wage of his wife. He is very proud of his position, the name of his family, ancestors, or whatever. But she don't have any kind of pride in her. We also get the impression that he is too clever, and he also reveals his greed for dowry, though he tried to make it that he is going to marry to his daughter because of her beauties and qualities, but still he says that the count is generous enough that he will not refuse him for the uh, ample dowry or fair amount of dowry. So Duke is a greedy person, he's cruel person, but he's also lover of art. We see that uh, we get some points from this poem, and these are that it's a possible confession to his wife's murder. In the poem, he confessed the murder of his wife. He foreshadowed the fate of his next duchess also in this poem. He also reveals the powerlessness of women. Duchess has no power to behave like herself. She has to behave like the duke and in the way the duke wants. So verbal and situational irony are also found in this poem, and it begins and ends with the duke drawing the attention of the listener to the work of art. He is great lover of art. So these are the few qualities we find in this poem, and that's all for today, students. Thank you. Have a nice day.